everyone, welcome to Chinatown and Korea Rose. My name is Jim. I'm the Programs Associate for Chinese Culture Center of San Francisco. And I hope you all had a lovely Thanksgiving. And thank you so much for coming and joining us at the closing talk about Hotam Plaza Korea Rose. I would like to thank all of you for joining us virtually. This is a hybrid event and we're now live streaming. Thank you everyone. And I would like to introduce briefly about CCC. Since 1965, Chinese Culture Center has been a steadfast anchor in SF Chinatown, uplifting the community through contemporary arts, amplifying the others of voices, and creating a safe, inclusive, and creative space for dialogue and risk-taking. And this year is particularly meaningful as we celebrate the 10th year anniversary of this very space. Offsite gallery run by CCC, dedicated to support underexploited API and Bible artists and their community-based social practices, mostly through residency programs. And there is no better way to commemorate such a milestone than having incredible artists like Hotam to transform the space into their multifaceted platform and creative cultural hubs. As many of you already know, Hotam is a Hong Kong-born, Vancouver-based artist and independent publisher whose witty, impactful, and often satirical works have inspired Asian and Asianized story artists and beyond worldwide. When known for his exploration of identity politics and print media, his works have prominently examined what it means to be Asian, what it means to be different, and what it means to be presented in a certain way in media and by society, intersecting the personal with the universal. Today, we will be having a conversation with Winnie Wong, professor of graduate at UC Berkeley, to reflect upon his experiences during the residency, including his unexpected discovery of family roots in California, which actually inspired his amazing new works, which we're going to see in a minute. And some of the central themes to his work, including the story of identity, social stereotypes, and the sense of alienation and belonging, all examined through his powerful lens of print media as a potential of storytelling. And we are honored to have Professor Winnie Wong as the moderator of the talk today. As a fellow Hong Kong-born and Chinese Canadian, like Ho, her research has been focusing on the history and present of artistic authorship, particularly the interaction between China and the West. Her forthcoming book, titled The Many Names of Identity, examines the nameless and meaningful portraits of Ho in the 18th and the early 19th century. And the city sold as a sole political trade between China and Europe. Before joining UC Berkeley, she obtained her master's and PhD from MIT, and also directed a non-profit New Year Art Exhibition place in Cambridge, and also was a junior fellow of the Hollywood Society of Fellows. And I'm sure that her expertise in modern and contemporary art and social context will really enrich the discussion today. Last but not least, I would like to shout out to our partner of the event today, Asian Art Archive in America in New York. Since founded in 2009 as the first overseas hub of Asian Art Archive in Hong Kong, ANA has been dedicated to its mission to collect, preserve, and make accessible information on contemporary art from and about Asia, in order to facilitate public understanding, specialized research, critical thinking, and dialogue, as well as raise awareness of and support for AAA's activities globally. As a bi-coastal collaboration with them, we are showcasing some of those works in AAA's public reading room in Brooklyn. So if you are in New York or plan to be in New York for the next week, please stop by and check them out. And now Asian Lee from AAA is joining us virtually, and she will be your online host, making a necessary announcement and answering to your logistical questions. And we'll be having a Q&A session after this talk. So those of you who are joining us virtually, please feel free to type your questions, and Agent will collect them and forward them to us accordingly. Lastly, I promise, I would like to acknowledge the supporters for the residency and the program, Community Challenge Grants, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and Chinatown Arts Promotion, supported by San Francisco Office of Economic and Workforce Development. Okay, now without further ado, let's welcome our Hotam and Winnie Wong on the stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, June. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Hotam.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Winnie.
Thank you for being here, and also thank you for spending, I think now 3 months here in San Francisco, Chinatown, as an artist in residence here. I wanted to begin by asking a little bit about your background. You're born in Hong Kong, but you work in Vancouver, and you have for a very, very long time as an artist. Because I'm also Chinese Canadian, we were talking earlier about a very long history of artists who have lived and worked and moved between Canada and Hong Kong. This is a long history that extends like over 100 years, including artists like Li Tiafu and Yu Ben, and more recently in the kind of opposite direction, an artist like Matthew Wong, who was born in Canada but formed in Hong Kong. So I was just wondering if you could reflect for us on what these two places mean to you as an artist, Canada and Hong Kong, and how are they part of your work or part of your formation as an artist?
Interesting. I was born in Hong Kong, definitely. So Hong Kong is my birthplace, and it always has a special place in my heart. But I have left Hong Kong for a long time. So I have not really been that connected with the city. I guess it's only from news I read about Hong Kong these days, mostly. As for Canada, it's a very special, also a very special place for me because it's where I kind of opened me up and where I become an artist, and I have a lot of support from on many levels, like from the government to my artist friends and from the community to sort of help me to become, I guess, the artist I am. So, both places are a bit like a special for me.
You went to McMaster University and studied social work, right? Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I was studying social work and trying to be a social worker, but somehow in the middle of it, I was in a place, like a job placement in helping in the community, and I was in a program with art therapy. And so I was more like a helper and an observer. And through that, I suddenly realized I have a deep interest in art. So from that point on, I just did everything I could to understand art or try to learn about art.
So unlike a lot of social practice artists, you actually kind of are a professional. I mean, you're like a properly trained social worker.
I have to say I don't really have a degree in social work. I end up having a BA, Bachelor of Art, because I was determined not to become a social worker, or not that I don't want to be, but I was determined to be an artist. So I sort of realized, after I realized that, I quickly kind of start to find ways to sort of self-teach myself. And in the middle of it, I decided I'll just finish the degree because of some family pressure. But, as you might know from Chinese families, like when they heard that I'm going to give up, like something, they would strongly discourage me. So I end up with a degree, but I still end up doing a lot of community work. I was working in the community because that's what my training was. And it was like I was quite natural, I guess I have to say. I was very, I did very well. And at that, like years ago, there were not a lot of Asian Canadians in the field too, so they really need people with Asian backgrounds to help with certain type of community. But but generally, like I guess in Canada, it's very multicultural, so they so welcome all kinds of all race as well. So through that, I kind of was able to support myself, and I went to like night school and take other courses to kind of learn whatever I can.
Reflecting back now on the extent to which contemporary art has become very socially engaged, can you tell us about how community work and artistic practice and community practice are similar, or do they overlap, or are there skills or processes that you bring to both?
I can't speak for other artists, but for me, I find that like I am a strong believer that like art could make changes. So that's what I try. A lot of times I try to, I guess, help people or try to, broaden, I guess, everyone's mind or perspective on certain issues. So that's what I'm hoping in my work I would be able to achieve.
Can we turn to your name? So I noticed when I had to, read your website, I noticed that your Chinese name is Ho Tam, or Tam Ho in Chinese. But living in North America, we invert our name order so that you become Ho Tam. And then I noticed that your kind of studio name or your press is called Ho Tam Press, but the Chinese characters you've used for that is Ho Tam, meaning very bland, whereas Tam Ho, your name, means like talking big or discursively vast. And so I find this sort of both this inversion in meaning and this reversal in order very, very funny. And I wonder, is this something that you intended? Is this something that you were trying to do?
Not intentionally. I do find it fun to look into sort of situations that I can kind of make fun of or play with. So I guess my name is also a play that I imagined. My real name or real Chinese name is Tam Ho Lao, and it's like with like 3 characters. But all of them are, when they translate it in English, are all family names. So sometimes people get really confused. So even if with a name like Ho Tam, people get confused, which is my first name, which is my last name. So I guess I get the kick out of that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I would like to use that to hide my identity in a way, because then people never know who I am, and it's just an artist name kind of thing for me. And at one point I wanted to kind of combine the two into one word too, but it didn't work, and it just too complicated. My family, my relatives, a lot of my aunts and uncle always call me Tam Ho, so that's when I become an artist. I try to kind of shorten it to Ho Tam or Tam Ho.
And where does Ho Tam come from?
Ho Tam Press. When I have my press, I couldn't think of an original name, so I just called it with my name. So it became Ho Tam Press, and I remember at one time a friend sort of asked me, what is your name in Chinese, like Ho Tam means, and is it mean Ho Tam? And then I always remember that. I think it was funny, like what you said, it's like Ho Tam. I never thought of it, but it means very bland, and it's kind of like a play of words as well.
And looking around at your work that's here in the gallery, there is a sort of sense of understatement, very bland, and also a sense of economy of materials, and a kind of like an understatement, like a staying kind of below the radar, but also a sense of like the power of talking big or like encompassing larger discourses, larger narratives. So I wonder if you can, in a way, that kind of dual identity that you didn't intend to kind of comes out in your work?
I didn't realize that until you asked me this, but I do believe in like using sort of very basic elements or basic things to trying to expand them or to create with them. So my medium is always very sort of down to earth or something kind of even low brows or very common. And I try to use them to create my work. And I sort of believe in saying more with less. So that's one thing that I'm trying to, and I guess a lot of the work sort of, I don't know if it's understated, but I try to kind of play with situations and try to make meaning out of very simple situation.
Maybe can we talk about this project you've been doing here in San Francisco?
Sure. There are a few things I've been doing here. Like first of all, I guess when I first arrived here, I transformed this space of 41 Ross into a bookshop, gallery, and live performance space with the help with some BIPOC artists and with the staff and everyone. So we kind of make a change on the space. And at the same time, so we have some performances, and I brought in some musicians and rappers, dancers to kind of perform and trying to make it very lively or do something different, I guess, with the public. So that was one of the idea of using the space. But in the middle of it, I also have this luxury of the time to able to explore a little bit of my family history. So I was able to kind of track down the roots, like my Californian roots, and I found out like where my great-grandfather and my great-grandparents lived or settled. It's Marysville, California, and then all of their offspring were born there basically. But after that, like I guess after my great-grandfather passed away, the great-grandmother sort of took some of the kids back to China or Hong Kong to settle. So that's why I'm back in Hong Kong. I was born in Hong Kong. My father was born in Hong Kong as well.
I see. And some of this material here is the result of that sort of family genealogy research?
Yes, through many people, like since I've been here, like I have many help, like with people like David Lay and Gordon Chang, some of the people you know.
And, very important local leaders and historians of the Chinese American community here.
Yes, and then with the librarians of the public library, they were helping me with using ancestry search and all these work, and linked me to different people. So I was able to kind of find a lot of the history of my family. And incidentally, like two cousins that now they reached out to me because they knew I was looking for family members. So they reached out to me, and they were doing a lot of legwork already on the family tree. So they provide me with a lot of information as well as photographs. So, and after that, I sort of used the work into making portraits, like on this side of the wall. And so of all I guess the first two generations of my family, first two generations of the settlers.
Right. So these are portraits of your sort of ancestors.
Ancestors, yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
in California.
In California, yeah.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I was thinking how when you mentioned these two cousins who reached out to you, I was thinking how every family has somebody who's into their family history, or like there's that one person who's like always doing genealogical research and keeping track of family stories. And I was just thinking plenty of our relatives and family members don't need that, like don't care and don't need to research their own family to understand who they are, which, it's just not that important to everyone. I was wondering if you could think about what is that impulse that some people have to do this kind of digging?
Right. For me, I guess I could speak personally. Is because my father, when I was he passed away a few years ago, but he was very distant from his family, so I didn't know why. And but I didn't want to overstep him to kind of initiate more engagements or research or just to look, sort of on his back kind of thing. So but I didn't. I also, now that he passed away, I also felt that should have asked him questions that I didn't at the time. So all these like ambivalence inside me, and sort of, I guess it's partly making me more curious about his family. So that's, and all this time I only knew my great grandfather was, we're living in Sacramento area. You know, I didn't know where, and yeah, no information at all.
Do you feel finding all this out has changed you?
Definitely, yes. I guess interesting thing about this is because I guess for a person who's working with identity, like issues around identity, race, and culture and history, you know, so like you can stop questioning yourself as well, and this is very important for me. But all this time I didn't realize that until now. I kind of look back and say, oh, you know, like how come I never questioned myself in the first place, you know, things like that. But thanks to my cousins, Julie and Kimberly, they were really helpful in providing me all this information, because otherwise I would have not known any more of my family.
So you think this is like I mean, because as you say, all of your work or a lot of your work deals with identity, but in a way this is one of your few works that deal with your own identity, and it is in a way a self-portrait that you're saying comes down to a lot of questions and ambivalence. Or do you think or do you feel the result is more concrete, solid? And especially you've met like cousins now. Like now there are people, you know.
I do feel a little, like much more connections with the land and with them as well, which I never felt before, like that I was just myself. And now I sort of suddenly have this like sort of family members or relatives around me. So it's I feel, you know, sort of much more closer to where I started, to, you know, to myself in a way. I want to show you, like maybe I could show you the book that I make, like from the drawings, like which I guess you might not see on the screen. I could show the little bit of the images. Let me. So this is like the portraits that I made of my family, like starting from my great aunt, who was basically the only document that I had, and then I found the rest of the family. So, and then she happened to be the youngest in the family too. So it's sort of go back to the great grandfather in the end.
Where did the source images come from? The source images.
Source images, like some are mostly provided by my cousins, Julie and Kimberly, and then some are from myself as well. Like I had, because some of them are in Hong Kong, so I do have the images. Like, yeah. And then on the back, I have a little kind of poetry, kind of writings on too. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, just like that. Yeah. So this is, it's called Once Upon a Time in America.
Do you want to read a little to us?
I could try. It's a little bit personal poem, but I could read a little bit. Just that, okay. Okay. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, maybe from there.
Okay. This is probably, yeah, this is very end. You have been to everywhere, but you wake up not knowing where you are. Have you been to you? Where do you go from here? Worlds away from the start. You have come a long way. So many places you call home, and you are still a passerby. Spring, summer, fall, winter, seasons come, seasons go away. The seeds you sowed are sprouting in the new soil. The ending is a beginning. The arrival is a departure. An eternal traveler, journey on.
Very nice. You know, and since the title is Once Upon a Time in America, we started our conversation by thinking about Canada and Hong Kong. But in a way, this project has brought you to kind of thinking about your relationship to America, which everyone in the world sort of feels like they have to deal with now. Do you have, you've spent like 3 months here in this country. What do you think?
Are we getting into the politics?
Or just what your experience of it, you know, as a Canadian, as a Hong Konger?
I definitely think it's an interesting time that I'm spending because I kind of witness, I guess I use the word witness of like all the ups and downs and changes taking place in the last few months, and it's just something to experience. Like I guess I guess if I'm watching from Canada, it would be a very different situation. So I do kind of get a different side of the story, I feel.
Do you think it will impact your work? I mean, you spent other time here as well, but this time.
People do suggest me to make work on that because some of my work could be political. So people do suggest me, but I tend to work with things that are very more personal and more like that impact me, and that I have a deeper sense. I don't feel that I can actually make work to comment, right? But maybe about my experience, definitely. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe we should open to questions. What do you think? Or
yeah, definitely.
Would you like to? Yeah. June, is that a good idea? Shall we open to questions or? Yeah. Okay. Does anyone in the audience, would you like us to talk about something? Yes.
Can you talk about these posters behind?
Yes.
Oh, these are my books. I have a project called Hotam magazine, and these are the, I guess, poster I made from that magazine. So what you see is like the, I guess the cover. Like this row, the top 2 rows are basically the covers of the magazine. And then these are from the inside pages, this lower row. So they correspond to each of the magazines. But the full magazine would be about 60 pages, so I just sort of excerpt from each of them. And yeah, so is there any specific one you want me
I was
to?
kind of interested in the blue line stuff, but there's some of it over here.
Oh, this one.
The
Yeah.
blue line drawing. Yeah.
This one is called Fine China. It's basically using the China ware to create like artwork. So it's all blue, like what you see in the side as well. Yeah, that's the Fine China piece. Yes. It's like a blue and white porcelain ware, and then I kind of use those patterns or to kind of to rework them and into like about maybe culture, politics, or history and other things.
But the visual is also sort of the inverse of an architectural a classic architectural drawing, like a blue and white drawing, a blueprint.
Yes.
Yes? No?
Yes, they are. The original work, the first print of this project, this Fine China project, is actually a blueprint.
Yeah.
I used the architectural print to make a kind of just a poster with only images, but now I'm kind of also provide the text later on. I'm kind of a little bit of a writer, if you notice, because I kind of like to sort of insert sometimes my writing into my work.
Can you speak about that? Why do you work essentially in print? I mean, like in zines and magazines and books. Why do you take that form? What is it, that form?
It's special to me because I find like I have worked with like paintings or drawings or photography, but I find like print form in a book form, I guess I would say mostly in a book form or some sort of a book form, it's sort of self-contained to me. Like it's kind of like a short stories or novel or nonfiction. Like you can kind of have a complete piece in it by itself, and it can be. And the beauty of it is also it can be. It's movable. So you don't have to have a gallery to show, like you just kind of pass it to another person and they could get the experience or get what you want to say.
Yes, in the back, please.
I don't have one here. I guess we can look at one of these. Yeah, I'll just take one. I could. No, not that one. Thank you. Okay. I guess the audience was asking why are some of my scenes kind of muted in the cover compared to some of the other work. Yeah, because I guess since about a few years ago, I started kind of making books in this format, and with a black or maybe brown cover, and without any graphics, and then only with a circle opening on the corner. So I don't know. I guess when you make these days, like there's so many people making books, so there are all kinds of like craft and designs and amazing things people can do. But I find that sometimes simpler is better, and so I was kind of trying to, I guess my way of thinking out of the box is making something that like almost like no cover, but at the same time it still has some distinct elements that people can kind of spot or can kind of understand what I'm trying to say. So this piece is about the gay pride movement, the slogans from different time throughout the years, like basically throughout the last 50 years probably. So the cover has only like a pink, like not a reversed pink triangle, pink pages. So that's this work, yeah. And then some of the other works are also like that with like kind of a logo, little drawings or a letter, yeah. Yeah. Is that a good answer to you? Yeah.
Question here.
Thanks for sharing your super personal journey on digging back into your family history. It's very inspiring. Like I have thoughts now, like maybe I should take it to mine a little bit. But on your journey, did you learn anything interesting about Bay Area or California Asian American history? I see that you went to a couple of towns, maybe, or you, I think, or even in your family line, did you learn anything about what your family did in the Bay Area?
Did I go to, your question is, sorry, I'm trying to.
Say that did you learn anything interesting about the Chinese communities that might not be present to this day anymore, but maybe your family line was kind of part of?
Do you want to phrase that?
Maybe, and I need to repeat the question for the streaming too. I think the question is, in the course of doing this research on your own family, did you learn something about California's Chinese American history or these communities that to many of us are really kind of unknown and erased? So, or something from your own family history which kind of sheds light on this larger story we're all kind of part of rebuilding.
Yes, I have been learning more like stories or the histories of Chinese Americans since their arrival in this continent, right? So I went to many like sort of trips or sometimes do lectures and to try to understand more. So that's very sort of eye-opening for me. I mean, I did read about them before, but now I'm kind of right in the middle of it. And I found that the amazing thing is like in California, in the Bay Area, there's a huge sort of activism about of Asian Americans or Chinese Americans, or different races as well. Yeah. So like this sort of this kind of community action is very so rich and basically it's like just eye-opening for me, like to witness this, to see this happening, and I guess I'm glad to have experienced it, and hopefully maybe to be part of it.
I was recently lucky enough to be in a conversation with David Lay about preservation of Chinatown. He gave us this history of the efforts here. I'm not trying to speak for him, but one thing I learned from him that I found very moving was that his kind of philosophy on preservation is not to preserve the past, but to find ways for us to live currently now with whatever forms we have, with whatever stories or histories that we have, and that it's very important that Chinatown is a place for immigrants, regardless of whether it's historically, the same place, or exactly preserved in the way it could have been at a certain point in time. And I kind of see a lot of your project kind of tapping into that sense of, like, just living it rather than kind of capturing something from the past and preserving it.
I definitely agree with that. Yes, I feel that, like, I guess I can criticize other artists who work in that stream of, like, preserving or interest in the history, but I guess my idea is, like, how the past and the current or the future would kind of collapse, and how we find a way out, or not, maybe not the way out is maybe too harsh a word, but how to we coexist in this, like, diaspora kind of situation.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, we began by saying you were Canadian, but actually, in a way, you're American. Just went, via Hong Kong.
Yeah, that's true. In a way, I guess I am.
Question in the back.
I'm really curious to learn a little more about, your political work. For example, I think, except for that you're doing research on the immigration history of family geology, another interesting part of your work to me is that you're also dealing with this kind of very local social realities that's happening right now in Asia. Like, you're combining this coronavirus with this traditional Chinese Tsinghua pottery. Apparently, it's some kind of political satire that asks what Chineseness is. And also, I received a copy of your Hong Kong newspaper almost over a year ago from a friend. And upon receiving the newspaper, I always thought it was, made by a local Hong Kongese artist, and I never imagined it was made by, an artist who now resides here. So I'm curious about, how do you see your own relationship with this local social realities that's happening in Asia? Like, what kind of drove you into researching the social movements?
Do you want to repeat the question? Like,
Oh,
I guess
right,
it's very
I'm sorry.
long. Sorry,
Yes,
it's okay.
I need to summarize your brilliant question, which is very nuanced and layered. And I think she is asking you, to what extent is your work connected with political or social realities or movements or events in Asia broadly? Because some of your work does seem to gesture towards that, and they seem quite embedded in the social situations of the present elsewhere.
Yeah, I guess especially since I live on the Pacific Coast or Asian Pacific area, so I'm kind of very drawn to the news, my work is also about my identity. So I sort of always, like, I look back into some history or parts of me which is Asian or which is Chinese, and I try to use that in my work. And I can say I don't want to feel like I'm the representative or the speaker of certain things, but I guess my take on those work is I want to play around. I mean, I want to. Is that okay? I'll try to speak for this. I'll try. Yeah, like, my take on the work is to kind of playfully, kind of sort of open up some conversation that's what I want in the first place. I guess, yeah, and then people can kind of respond to me or respond within themselves through looking at them.
Another question?
Here's one question from online.
Yes, please.
Did you find out, and can you talk a little about why your ancestors came to America and then left to return to China?
Okay, good question. But this is still, I guess the question is about how why my ancestor came to America and why they left. I think this is very good because I am still asking this, and with my cousins, we're still basically asking this. Of course, like they came to America because of opportunities. Definitely, they were not exactly poor. They were, I think, at one point they were merchants. I don't know if when they started off they were whatever situation they were, but at one point they were businessmen. They were they have a business in Marysville. And obviously quite successful, but I don't know what happened. We only have names and because from all those documents we could find how much they travel, where did they go, or how the address and certain facts about them, but not really the reason. So we are still kind of curious about the reason why they left America. But of course, I think at that time, in my imagination, I can kind of fill in with some of my own imagination. Is there are a lot of racism at that time, so it's not exactly a pleasant place to live. I mean, if you're not the mainstream, in the mainstream, so it's probably if they were well off, why wouldn't they live in a more pleasant place? Maybe if they have money, they would probably live maybe not a king, but they would probably a lot of people return to China or Hong Kong, they have properties, or they could live comfortably. So that's probably some of the reason. But why they closed the business, why they moved out, I don't know why.
You mentioned to me that your father's family, they're from Hoi Ping, right?
Hoi Ping.
The Kai Ping, Diaolou, you know about the Diaolou, right? I mean, because this is a pattern of a story. So many Californian Chinese families went back to Kaiping or Hoi Ping and built those incredible fortresses and then left again. And so this sort of coming and going is just a larger story that so many people share. So.
Yeah. They didn't return to Kaiping, but they settled in Hong Kong. So.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting too. I guess it sort of, that's where that's how I came around.
Yeah. Yes, please.
I'm curious if you consciously see yourself as an educator, because I feel like so much of your art is so contextually grounded in history, and that you're not just, revealing history through the art, but you're also in a way teaching the audience, right? Especially for those who may not be as familiar in these Asian histories. Do you think of yourself as a teacher?
The question is if I think of myself as a teacher, because a lot of my work is trying to teach people or teaching people about history. I don't really see myself as a teacher so much. My mom is a teacher, and I did like that. She's very harsh on me. But I think it goes back to Winnie's question in the first, her observation in the first place, the social work part comes in, and I think I'm definitely interested in social issues and the power of art in bringing changes. So I'm just hoping that through that it could make some people change their mind or have a different view or see a different point of view, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Have you found any artists in your family, in your ancestors?
I think some of them are artistic, but I haven't. Gordon Chang's father is a painter. so I know that, but I guess we wouldn't be directly related to his father, so that's one artist, and then I think in his family there are more artists, musicians and other things. But I haven't, no, I don't know, but I haven't met everyone yet, so can't say no. So there's possibilities, and I'm hoping for future artists, definitely.
More from online.
Okay.
There's two questions, but it's from the same person. And has your experience of running your print shop/studio at 41 Ross and within San Francisco, Chinatown informed or influenced your work? And since this is the closing talk, I'm also curious about what has been your greatest takeaway from your residency.
Okay, the questions are about the print shop, like making, I guess turning it into a print shop, bookshop here. What have I sort of gained insight, right? So basically, because I guess 41 Ross was kind of a multi-purpose place, so I never really, I guess I have to, once I move in here, I have to learn how to work with the community to kind of bring in my resources. So it's a lot of that, like I'm not fully equipped with all these like printing or bookmaking tools or machines, so I have to kind of adapt to the environment, and also like it's a very public space, so there are times that it's like it's hard to work, have the privacy to work too. So that's like things I have to like negotiate with. So that's my I guess my gain, like my insight into this residency. But for the second question about
your biggest takeaway.
What I take away from this experience is. I think I guess the people is the biggest resources of this community, and I think I met through like the staff, the volunteers, the professors and academic scholars, historians, and all these different people, which have sort of enriched my experience, and also kind of the friendship is like priceless. And also like my family, the family that I found, or the relatives who met me here, and all these people like sort of make this stay really special, I think.
Community.
Community, yes. Yes.
Okay. Please, Jim.
During your residency, will you also organize some of the artist-led programming, some of the pop-up events? Could you tell us more about how you reach the people and how it was to work with local artists, and also could you let us know more about how it was to really interact with community members?
Okay, the question is during like all those programs that I sort of organize in this space, how they kind of come into place, and who did I reach? I think like I brought in basically like it's not a lot of programs. We only did basically 2 nights of these live performances. One night we have Hand Wash, who is a rapper. He did like a musical performance. He is very good in like DJing and also video as well in his performance. So it's like a very lively show. Like, and he performed in basically 3 languages, like Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese, and also English. So all these so I guess his performance really reached like different kind of community, definitely. And the work talks about like masculinity, which leads to the other artists, the dancer, Johnny, he was one of the performers on the same night, and he did like this piece about his, basically it's like a very personal reflection of his own cultural background, about his like masculinity and also about these like issues. So I think they both of them kind of brought in a lot of I guess really interesting. I think about these gender issues like that night definitely is a very highlight of that evening. And then the second performance night, we had, not a night, it was during the day, it was like Bitter Party from LA, and they did they're very diverse. They have like 5 members, but they have extra members who came up from LA as well, and then they played together. The crowd was really, really great, and they would interpret this Asian folk music or pop music and tell stories as well. So I think it's also quite lively and enriching kind of experience to like everybody at that time. I remember they participated and was playing music instrument as well because they provide some extra instruments. Yeah. So did I answer the questions?
I think so. Let me add one to that before we end, just to be patriotic. Tell us 3 Canadian artists you think we should pay attention to.
Oh. Wow. Gee, who I have coming to mind? Like, I could tell you some like Canadian. Like, I guess your research has a lot with the Hong Kong
I just
Canadian.
mean anyone, especially younger artists that you think we should
there's
follow
like,
and learn about.
Yeah, there's Howie Choi, Choi Ho Yan. I think his 中文名, Chinese name is. He's not really young, but he is a sort of very amazing artist. Like he does like drawings and videos and now sculpture. So I saw his video online just the other day, and he's making some new sculpture for this Chinese Canadian museum. So that's one artist. And then there's also a friend of mine, Marlene Yun. She's a printmaker, and she's also having a show right now in Richmond Art Gallery in Vancouver. Yeah, so her work is about a lot of time about food, about culture as well. Very fun work. And the third one, I don't know. I cannot think of a third one right now.
Could be a Hong Kong artist. Could be a Hong Kong artist.
Well, I actually was doing a research, like when you talking about like research, like I'm interested in this artist, Tobias Wong. Do you know of Tobias Wong? Yeah, but he passed away some years ago too. So but he is quite a really interesting designer and artist. Yeah. Also, I think a BC artist as well. So these 3 are all BC artists.
Yeah.
British Columbia.
I think, well,
One more.
one more? Okay, sure. Last question.
Yes. Delighted that you think art can be an agent of social change. I know a lot of people less optimistic about the power of art. Can you talk a bit about what social changes you think art has enabled?
Okay.
The question is, most people are pessimistic about art as a change agent. Why are you optimistic? Do you have any good stories to cheer us up with?
I think art can like document things, and through that we learn things from. And I think just by that itself, it could be quite already very successful in making change, because like it's through the lessons we learn like from the past, we kind of move on to tomorrow, to like forward. So I think that's how we could, that's at least one thing that I can do, even though like sometimes the change cannot be immediate. But hopefully, like, you know, people build on that and learn from that and move on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Hotam. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you so much.